Joining me now is Jeff Buehner from the Loyal Order. And Jeff, we spoke a few months ago, and I did pronounce your name correctly, did I? I meant to ask you before we started. It
Yeah,
is
Buehner,
Buehner,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got it.
it looks like it, but you never know. And I didn't want, I figured instead of me saying it like 8 or 9 times and finding out after that I got it wrong, I wanted to double check. But Jeff Buehner from the Loyal Order.
Yep.
And you can just go to theloyalorder.com to find out more. We're going to talk about something new, but let's sort of pick up where we left off. I spoke with you at the beginning of the year. So
Yeah.
here we are right in the middle of 2022. How are things going with the band? I want to talk to you about your new song in a moment, but have you guys gotten a chance to, play some shows, work on some new material? What's been going on with the band lately?
Yeah, we got stuff coming up. We're playing it actually the next up for us is a thing called Guitars Under the Stars at the end of the month. And the Metal Music Hall of Fame ceremony is going to be there. So we're going to do a jam that night with the likes of like Ron Keel and Jeff Scott Soto and stuff
Oh,
like that.
great.
I'm actually going to play bass with those guys. And then the next night, the Loyal Order is playing. So Guitars Under the Stars is this outdoor event that's up here. It's just grown and grown and grown. It's
And
like
you're in the Northwest somewhere, right?
yeah, up in Oregon.
In Oregon. Okay. I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
great, just
yeah.
out under the stars. I mean, this time of year, you don't want to play under the stars, in January, but that sounds great. And so the Metal Hall of Fame happens in the same spot.
Yeah, yeah. The Metal Music Hall of Fame is the last time I was at the last ceremony, and it was down in Los Angeles during the NAMM show. It was not
Right.
at the NAMM show; it was off site, but it was a really cool event. And yeah, this year they're doing it up here with the Guitars Under the Stars thing, and it just makes it a better event. It's there's a class, like some classes that go on for some of the young campers that come out, and they attend all these you know uh, seminars, and like there'll be a guitarist teaching and talking about how to approach it and how to become more relevant in the musician world, and drummers and singers and record producers, like Toby Wright's going to be there, and that type of thing. So it's not just about the instrument; it's about how to break into the culture and be a part of all of it. As instead of just hiding out in your room and playing Iron Maiden songs. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think obviously, we live in an age where there is a very passionate following of rock. It is just not sort of at the forefront. I mean, when you look at award shows and the fact that rock categories aren't even televised, and apart from a yearly performance by the Foo Fighters, you don't usually get much. Maybe Metallica every few years, and great bands, they should get a big spotlight like that, but there's so much focus on pop music and just other genres, so it's great that it's still out there, but it's not at the forefront the way when either of us were kids. But I think the fact that we live in an age where the younger people who are really passionate about it and are maybe starting out, it's a lot easier to find somebody that like some band that maybe not everybody knows, or it's like, hey, check out the Loyal Order. It's
Yeah, for
very
sure.
easy to share music and just share your interests with people, whereas you go back even to the 80s, it was like, well, if it was dumb luck you met someone that liked
Right.
the same music as you.
Yeah, all you could do then was just pack up and go to LA and hang out, and.
Yeah.
But yeah, but now it's a little different because we have this type of thing, and you can interact a little easier now. But you gotta, it's all part of the hang. You gotta know people, and that's kind of what this camp is about. I mean, like, Tom Hazard's gonna have a lot to do. I don't know if you're familiar with Tom, but
Yeah, yeah. I've spoken to him a couple of times. He
mhm,
was doing a lot of work with David Ellefson a few years ago, and
yeah,
I spoke with him during that point. And Yeah, I mean, Tom was a great guy just because it was like, he was so passionate about music, but he also we had a lot of the same interests in terms of just some of the nerdy collectibles that he was like kind of running
Yeah,
around in, like, well, look at this, I got this, and it's just,
yeah,
and it's great when you can meet somebody like that that is,
yeah,
passionate about stuff that maybe you liked when you were kids, like comics or Star Wars or whatever, but then they're also the same way about music. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's great. Yeah. So that's great that he's involved. And sort of what you're talking about in terms of the camp, I think it's great that there's an advent of, when you have programs like the one you're talking about, or something like School of Rock that just didn't exist. It was like
right,
maybe there was somebody in your town that taught guitar or something, but now it's a
sure,
lot more organized. And I think that's the important thing, because there's a ton of great new music coming out, a lot of great younger artists. It's
yep.
just more, bringing them to people's attention. So I think that's great that there's events like the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's totally cool, man. I mean, it's just like, launching some of these, these kids who are just like really into like 80s and 90s rock,
Yeah.
grunge and metal and all that stuff. And, it's surprising how many there are, that, are just kind of breaking away from the modern, pop music. And, they're, it's organic instruments and stuff like that. And then there's also like, the blending of the two. There's some really cool acts out there that are like blending that whole, electronic music and blending it with like, organic, hard rock metal guitars and guitar solos. And some of the DJs are actually doing that now. It's pretty impressive to hear. So, putting it all together, I mean, however it decides to manifest, going forward, it's all good. It's having a real guitar or real drums or bass guitar or whatever, and mixing it with this, the new stuff is like modern production. It's good, kind of bringing it back a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's it's definitely better than, you get out there and somebody's got their laptop and hooked up to an amp, and
Yeah,
you don't even know if the microphone's turned on.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that,
Totally.
yeah, and there's no substitution for that. And yeah, I mean, it's great that there is an appreciation for some of the music. I mean, right now, as we're talking in the early part of the summer, you have that big stadium tour with Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison,
Right.
Joan Jett. And, just the fact that something like that is playing stadiums, and you're having the kind of people turn out all day for the kind of shows that honestly I would have gone to, 30 years ago,
Totally.
35
Yeah.
years ago, and seen really the same bands.
And they're well
So,
attended too,
yeah,
so there's
yeah,
a hunger for it, that's for sure, and I think it's really cool to see somebody like, Nikki Sixx out there doing his thing, Motley Crue, all the guys in Motley Crue.
sure.
I'm actually a Nikki Sixx fan though, uh, just because how he took that band, he's a cool bass player, but on top of that, he's a great businessman, and the
Yeah.
way he created their brand and really made, he was, tunnel vision, when he moved to LA and started that whole thing. And it's amazing what he did, so yeah, it's great to see those guys out there doing that stuff. It's cool. And Def
Yeah.
Leppard, man, it's just in Poison. I'm glad Brett Michaels made it through whatever happened to him.
Yeah, no, I'd heard about that. Actually, I had a friend who that was the show she went to, was the one in Nashville. So she missed Poison, but then they were back out there the next night, and
Yep, boom,
it's
nothing happened.
great that and you've got like Metallica playing the football stadium in Vegas, so
Yep.
when look, when Gene Simmons says that rock is dead, I know why he does it, because every
Hmm.
time he says rock is dead, there's like 20 articles about Gene Simmons saying rock is dead, and he
Yeah.
mentions that by the way, we're still out on the End of the Road tour. So I get it, I know why he does it. I don't actually think he believes it, and I
Yeah.
think that anybody who does believe it just isn't looking hard enough. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
I agree.
there's
I
so many
agree.
great bands out there, and I mean, within the last couple of years, I've gotten to talk to so many, including one of the guys from Dirty Honey, and just so
Oh
many of
yeah.
these bands that are out there. And so it's great, and it's great to hear that Loyal Order is going to be part of that. I was looking at your website, and you guys played. I know you played a show earlier in the year, and when I
Mhm.
started talking about it, I remembered what I saw, and it was you guys were on a bill with Sebastian Bach, right? And
Yep,
I
yeah, we
saw
did.
him I
Mhm.
saw Sebastian at the end of last year. He was doing Slave to the Grind in its entirety,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
you know, I saw Skid Row, I guess it was about 30 years earlier, doing Slave to the
Mhm.
Grind, not in its entirety. They played at in the parking lot at an arena in New Jersey, and Pantera opened. And seeing Sebastian 30 years later, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's still got it. And you know,
Oh, he
you never
does.
know,
Yeah.
especially when you have to hit those notes. So talk
Oh, yeah.
about getting to do that show, and you know, sharing a bill with somebody like Sebastian.
It was really cool. We got a call from the promotion company, and I said, hey, if you're interested, you could go open the show. They've been wanting to work with us, and so we went down and we said, sure, why not? And we were crowded all the way to the front of the stage because it was the drums were stacked. The drum
Oh,
sets were
right.
stacked, but it was super cool. I mean, it was packed, and we got a chance to play for some people who hadn't heard us yet. And another band called Kaleido played, and they were great.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw them actually when I saw Sebastian in December. They
yeah,
opened as well. And yeah, I agree. They were great.
yeah. That singer she's got pipes, man. She's
Yeah.
great. And yeah, and then Sebastian came out and did his thing, and they were cool. It was great to see him. He's quite the entertainer too. Like funny, funny guy. Very sarcastic sense of humor, and but it was great, man. It sounded good. We had our sound guy there to make sure that we were well represented, and that turned out good. And our sound guy works with John Mayer, actually. He tours with.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was able to. He wasn't out on tour at that moment. He last minute hopped down and hooked us up, and it was really cool. It sounded good. The crowd reacted really well. It was phenomenal. And since then we've been tracking some new songs, getting ready for the next group of singles as we begin to roll out a new album, which I don't even know what that is now. I mean, it's a body of work from a time period that it's like, I don't know, it's like you kind of do it in reverse now. You roll out a few singles and then drop the album with a couple singles that you haven't released yet. It's kind of how it goes now. But yeah, it's really excited about the new songs and everything. So
Yeah, well, speaking of the new songs, I've heard one of the newer songs. I believe the song that is the new song called "Last Words,"
yeah,
and I was interested in kind of reading about it because Jody, the publicist who sends bands like yourself my way, she sent me a little bit about it, and I guess you were kind of doing something, some open tuning on an acoustic guitar,
yeah,
sort of similar to the Rain song, and I thought that was kind of interesting because obviously that's such an iconic sound, and an opening to a song. So talk a little bit about how Last Words kind of came about musically, and then we can sort of
Uh,
dive into the lyrics as well.
yeah. I was literally sitting right here, and I grabbed my acoustic guitar one night, and I was searching through open because I like to strum around in open tunings. I'm not a guitarist. I just write on an acoustic. I play chords,
Right.
campfire chords, and do that whole thing. And once I have something, then if I was the originator, I take it to Brandon, whom you've met before.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was just Googling, I was like looking at different open tunings because I've tried several, and I ran across the open tuning for the Rain song, and it literally said that. I'm like, try that, and I did it, and then boom, all this started plunking around, and I found the verse melody to Last Words, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize it then, of course. And then I found the pre-chorus and the chorus, and the pre-chorus melody popped into my head first, and it's kind of the hook of the song. Coins in my eyes, what will my last words be? And I had the melody for it and everything, and I was like, that's it. And I played around with it for a few days, and it kind of overtook my life for a while because it insisted that it get finished. It sat like a
Right.
little kid in my lap and stared at me because it was constantly on loop in my head. And then I called Brandon. I said, "I think I got something. Come over." And so he came over and he's like, "Whoa!" And then he instantly like thought played the intro, what became the introduction to the song, and the middle eight and the outro. There's two separate parts, and it just immediately just snapped into place. And then I called my producer. I'm like, I'm gonna jump the gun on this one a little bit. I think I want to track this right away because it's gonna drive me crazy. And he made the time, went in, I played it for him, and he's like, nothing I don't there's nothing I don't like about that. Let's do it. And
Yeah.
so boom, we recorded it and got to work, and ended up being the first song that we've released. We were working on three or four others, and it just kind of took cuts in front of everything because it just felt so strong to me.
And do you feel that that maybe that's the kind of stuff that really, latches onto your brain and kind of hangs in there? The stuff that kind of starts with just kind of messing around, like you're saying, with the open tuning, having it be like Rain Song, and then you're basically living and breathing this song until you finally get it out of your system. So about a year ago, I spoke with a rock journalist, a music journalist, as a guy named Touré, and he'd written a book about Prince. And it seemed like Prince's whole life was he had to get this music out of his head. And sometimes, once it was out of his head, he'd actually like erase it because he didn't want anybody to hear it.
Sure.
But, you hear stuff like that, and I've heard Billy Joel talk about that. So it really seems like, when you're in it and something's really working, it's like, I kind of can't stop till I finish. Do you feel
Right.
like that's the stuff that sort of, it seeps into your brain like that? Is that the stuff that you connect the most strongly with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, writing is a discipline. You have to be patient because it's really like an act of receiving. You have to be intentional and put yourself in the place that you need to be mentally and physically, spiritually, whatever. You like put yourself in this spot and just start plunking around. Sometimes it goes into your head before you even touch an instrument, but you just kind of download it, and then you start hearing it, and it comes a little bit at a time usually, and it just starts writing itself in your head after you get that first part. And then you have to like physically keep up with what's happening. um at first, it's like I said, it's you have to be very intentional, but once the song starts to take shape, it sprouts its own arms and legs and decides what's going to happen next. And then you have to serve the song. Then it's not about you. And getting out of your own way for a song, whether I mean you might have a bass part that's really, you might think it's a complicated bass part, but all of a sudden the song starts telling you to minimize, or it could be the vocal part, it could be anything, it could be the drum track, whatever it happens to be. The song starts deciding what it's going to do. And if you can do that, that's how you end up that's how you end up with a good tune.
Yeah, and so last words. There's a video for it. Obviously, you can find it in all the good old fashioned ways. Go to theloyalorder.com. So the song's out there, and we were talking about some of the performing you have lined up. Talk a little bit about there's obviously pros and cons to the way people consume music now. Let's talk about some of the good ways that a band like yours can get out a new song in a way where you don't have to rely on, like 50 rock stations across the country that you have to call and, hope
Mm.
that somebody can slip somebody, a couple bucks at Dial MTV to have it, ranked like that. So, in terms of having the power to just get it out there, talk a little, because obviously we can see some of the challenges. And then maybe I mentioned a few of them just now in terms of, the reach, but being able to really control who gets access to it. Talk about some of the ways that you can do that just by putting it out on social media, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, What I typically do, I have a distribution deal, and it's through the Orchard, which is through a company called Vaughn Artists, and that's kind of how I get it out to like literally all the platforms. It's on iTunes, the videos on iTunes even, and and then I will like the perfect presentation for a song is a music video, and so you get that, and then you upload it to YouTube and you upload it to Facebook, and you start pushing it and doing all the things that you can do there, and just see what the reaction is from from your friends and people who are in your warm market, people that you can connect to. And it's you can also like do a push. You can do an ad for the song. You can push it to different countries if you want, just to see what the response is. And we've been fortunate enough to, after the release of the first record, we have people, in England and stuff that have there's a company over there called MMH Radio, and we become really good friends with them, and they loved our first record and did a great review of it, and they push it a lot, and they play us a lot. And there's places like that all over the place that have really latched on to what we're doing. And that's kind of how it happened. You have to have the faith to just kind of put it out there, and if it's good, they will come. And then it'll grow organically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is the advantage of if somebody, like I was saying earlier, is like, "Hey, I heard this great song," they can text it to their friend, they can email it to them, and
Sure.
and it's not like, "Hey, yeah, the next time I see you, I'll loan you
You're
my
right.
cassette or my CD." It's like, no, let's listen to it right now. So yeah, so the new song's great, and the last time I talked to you, you had recently released a song which I also liked a lot, but that had the title of "Fuck or Fight," and I
Hmm.
was sort of wondering, now that we've had a few months from that, is there advantages and disadvantages to having the word "fuck" in the title of a song? Obviously, it gets somebody's attention right away, but
Yeah,
do you find that sometimes it's like, oh, it's not gonna fit into an algorithm that people see, some of that tech stuff that I honestly don't understand, but
sure.
having a swear word in the title, does it work against you?
It definitely did, actually. Like I released it, and when I first uploaded the video, I thought, okay, cool, I'm done,
Yeah.
And then I got about 10 minutes later, I got this thing said, "Hey, we can't publish this," So I took out UC out of it and put a asterisk and stuff.
Right.
And even then they were like, "No, it still is so anyway, I ended up putting the, FOF. And that seemed to work.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, at least it didn't get to the point where you had to say, "Well, it's called fork or fight,"
Yeah,
so
exactly. I almost had to get to that point, but
yeah.
yeah, I definitely saw the limitations there. I ran right into a wall, actually, and I was like, "Oh my god, what am I gonna
That'd be
do?"
frustrating because it was a great song, but I'm sure that once people did hear it, you probably got great feedback to it. It was just sort of,
Sure,
without the the swear jar police descending on people and making sure that it's like,
exactly.
let's keep some
Yeah.
of that language away. And is that would that be on the same album as this, or that was that from a previous album?
It
I'm
was on
not
the
quite
previous album, yeah.
okay.
It was on the previous. So,
So
yeah,
then this one, and I guess sort of what you're talking about is, it's hard to really put your finger on what an album is and how many songs it is and when it'll come out. But I mean, in a way, I guess that's a good thing because, one, you don't have to wait for the manufacturing, especially, like a lot of bands who want to put their stuff out on vinyl. It's like, well, you can get the digital version of the album tomorrow. If you want the vinyl, you'll have it in 7 months, just because of, just there's so few places that press vinyl these days, which is, surprising.
sure.
So is
It's a thing.
there and I mentioned that for a reason. Is there a time frame for when you would want to actually have an album, or is it just going to be more of when you feel like you've got the right collection of songs, then you'll put it out there?
I think, I would like to have one out, hopefully by the end of the year, if possible. But I'm kind of like just waiting for the green lights. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna start dropping singles. We have two right now that are mixing, and and then two right more behind it, right there behind it, two more right behind it, and that we've already got rough tracks done for. That means the writing process. We go in and do roughs, and then we manipulate it and figure out how it's going to be arranged and everything. But yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna kind of wait and see, wait and see on that until, obviously you've got to have enough songs tracked, but
Yeah, sure.
they're all just sitting there. And I'm sure a few more will pop into the game, as we complete these. So,
Right, and it's just a matter of, getting the songs that you feel are the best that are already ready,
hmm
out there, and, look,
yeah,
you mentioned you're gonna be doing something with Ron Keel, and I've talked to him, and I know he's got his radio network, so I'm sure
yep.
that, he could squeeze in. I don't know where he lies on swear words, so I don't know if I could have been on there,
Yeah.
but, and stuff like that, and I mean, it's kind of great because look, I've in my life I've lived in Los Angeles and in the New York metro area,
hmm
and those are two cities that both have great history of rock
hmm
radio.
Sure.
But in the modern times, it's the opposite. It's very bad, actually, what it is. But
Yep.
that's why it's great. Somebody like Ron has his streaming network, and obviously
hmm
there's some channels on satellite radio at Sirius XM that are devoted to, you have the ones that are devoted to sort of the 70s. You have what they call Hair
Right.
Nation, you have Octane, you have all this stuff.
Being on
So
those
there are
playlists.
ways that you can get new music in your
Yep.
car when you're
Yep.
driving around,
Totally.
which is that's when I mean that's when I love to listen to a new album, is if I'm going to be in the car for like an hour. I'm like, great,
Same.
I'll you
Yeah.
know because I was talking to you before we got started. I have two small kids, so
hmm
the odds of me sitting down and I'm like, I'm going to listen to an album for an hour, that's not really going to happen. you know and
Yeah.
I talk to people about, like, it's people without kids. It's like, I've got this, I've got the turntable hooked up to all these speakers in a room, and I just sit down and I'm like, yeah, I need music that's going to sound good when I have one earbud in while I'm doing the dishes while the kids are watching TV before bed,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and
Totally.
so the sort of the meandering way to say, there's so many different ways to get music out there.
Yep. Totally.
Whereas, like, even 10 years ago, it might be hard for any kind of, new
Sure.
rock at all to be out there. So,
Yeah,
I think,
totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, back then, like the record companies and the radio determined what you were going to listen to,
yeah.
and now it's kind of like everybody listens to whatever they want to. That's why that's the playlist and the categories and stuff like that. And you mentioned Ron. I mean, he featured our song on his show the other last week.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, yeah, and he said he added it, so he really likes the tune a lot. So he had a lot of good things to say about it. So it was cool.
Yeah, right.
Um,
And that's really all it is. And, a sort of a good thing about the digital age is, however you are listening to the music,
mhm.
usually whatever device you're listening on, whether it's a car stereo or if it's on your phone, the name of the song and the band is going to be on there, because,
Yep.
I mean, I just think about how many times I was like, "Wow, what was that song I heard?" And,
Uh,
like, and you call somebody at the radio station, they're like, "I don't know what that was."
yeah,
Like,
man, that was like
you know,
so
so
45 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's like, I, I wasn't even in the studio. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, so it's great to be able to get it out there and just see what it is.
Mhm.
And having the loyalorder.com goes a long way. And it's just the engagement on social media obviously goes a long way, but it's probably also great because then people can find you and be like, hey, I really like the song.
Sure.
As opposed to putting it out in a vacuum and you're like, well, I hope people like the song.
Right, totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's you see the response right away. I mean, like I typically will just take to Facebook and start there, and a lot of people are like, yeah, but you can't do ads and make money off. I'm like, yeah, but really, music is an advertisement, and a music and a music video is an advertisement these days for a T-shirt and a concert ticket.
Yeah.
and you just have to look, you have to accept that, and if your goal is to just monetize everything, which is great, but the reality of it is music is pretty free, and so you have to, the way that that pie is shaped now is way different than it was before. So
Yeah, I mean, it's the explanation has been made so many times, but it's sort of relevant to what you were just talking about. Is not even going back too far. The model was, you went out on tour to try to sell people the new album that came out. That
hmm
was really where the money was, and now it's like, yeah, like you're saying, the video, the album, or just the song streaming is to get it in your head,
yeah,
and it's just so that you then go and see them. And it's like, it's sort of a different model. Is a lot of stand-up comedians will put out, instead of like having an hour special, and like, sure, they want Netflix or HBO or somebody to air it, but it's like, well, I just put it on my YouTube channel and like 7 million people watched it, and
yeah,
hopefully some of them will see me when I go to their town.
yeah,
And so
totally,
it's I think just being open to the new business model is important. And I think you
yeah,
you really nailed it when you said it really is just an advertisement. And
yeah, it is.
yeah, and it's always exciting when you see somebody's coming into town. So are there plans to do some more shows? I mean, that seems like, not just from a money standpoint, but from a way of increasing awareness. Are there plans
Absolutely.
for things later in the year, or is it just going to kind of be
Yeah,
focus on the music and hope something comes up?
yeah, we've got some stuff around town here. We had a big New Year's thing booked, and it looks like the one of the bands that was going to do it is going to cancel, and they're from, well, they originated from here, but they had a medical situation happen, so I think they're gonna pull out of the show. But we're thinking about, like, reshaping that show, to see, and that would be a New Year's Eve show at a
Yeah.
cool place here in town. And but yeah, we really want to get out and hit like the Midwest and the East Coast, and do that whole thing, and Europe. It's just, I think it's been really hard so far because a lot of the shows that were lined up during the COVID thing, all the shows that got canceled got pushed forward into this year. A
Yeah.
lot of the lineups just, it's like, well, let's just move that same lineup into next year, and then a few people fall off, and that's where we hope to get in some of those things. So yeah, we're looking at that, and I'm actually speaking with a few of the agencies now, but my focus right now is just getting this next record, pretty well down and ready to go. I mean, halfway through the COVID situation, I realized, I'm gonna have to record another record, before we can really get out and do it. So I was just like, dang, but it is
Yeah,
what it is.
but I mean, I think that just having that awareness is good, instead of
Yeah,
like, just like, no, we need to get out there and play the Midwest and the East Coast this year. But if the reality is it's more likely to going to be next year, I think it's great to, yeah, focus on some more music. And I think
yeah,
that
that's
that
where
it
we're
at least increases the chances of people being more aware. Well, I really look forward, Jeff, to hearing the rest of the new music that's coming out, and
cool, man.
hoping that there are some live shows in my neck of the woods before too long. I think it would be great to check you guys out. As I
Yeah,
mentioned earlier, the loyalorder.com is the website, and I'm sure people can just find the social media on there. But
sure.
if they want to look for that, what's the social media?
Well, it's just the Loyal Order on Facebook, the Loyal
Mhm.
Order on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, and the loyalorder.com. And there's links there, and you can punch through, and whatever platform you want to use, whatever your favorite is, they're all right there. So, and if you want to order a hard copy of the record, you can order from Tower Records. You can order it straight from those guys, or Amazon, or whoever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's great because if you want to hear it right now, there's all those other ways to find it. But
Yeah,
if, like me, you want to sit and flip through the booklet, the
I know.
physical. You know, it's the amount of time I spent reading, liner notes and like
Mhm.
listening
Same,
along and reading the lyrics. Like when
same,
a
me
when a
too.
when a CD or a cassette when it didn't have the lyrics, I'm like, oh great, I'm really gonna have to learn these words myself,
Yeah.
aren't I? you know.
Yeah, my defining moment was when I first saw Kiss Alive 1 as a little kid, and I just stared at it for, like, a day, and then I turned it to the second. Like,
Yeah.
you
Did
know?
have you seen, by the way, just as a quick aside, before we wrap up, that there's been this like avalanche of like rare Kiss live performances that have
I
come out, and the
haven't.
reason I'm mentioning it is that one of them, look, the Kiss Alive album was very heavily re-recorded for a variety of reasons, but mostly just because they couldn't really mic things and have it sound right. But that Cobo Hall show, that's, I don't think the whole thing is there, but there's like 40 minutes of it, and you like can actually see what you've heard so many times. And I don't know who had this stuff and why they held on to it for like 50 years, but I'm so
Yeah.
glad it's all coming out now. It's like
Yeah.
amazing some of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
we're
just look for that, and one day somebody's gonna have some Van Halen concerts that we've never seen, because there's very few out there, and I'm always like, well, somebody's got to have like one, But
yeah,
it's great because Kiss puts out so much stuff over the years, and this is all stuff that's never been out before. So
yeah.
when
That's great.
somebody, that's kind of a great thing too, is that stuff that you loved from way back, there's so many other people that are like, I want to share this, and it's
Sure.
great. Well, Jeff, it's great to get a chance to catch up with you, and I look forward to talking to you again
Yeah,
when
yeah, for
there's
sure, man.
more new music. Jeff Buehner, The Loyal Order, as I said before, theloyalorder.com, where they can find everything out. Thanks so much for your time. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Alright, man. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.